Hello, global adventurers. This is Global Countdown, and today we are shedding light on the places where law and order seems like distant echoes. Get ready for a journey through the top 10 lawless countries around the world. Number 10. Sudan. Sudan is going through a tough time with a lot of lawlessness, especially by the people who are supposed to keep the law, like the police or the soldiers. Sudan is in the middle of a civil war, which means there's a lot of chaos, lawlessness, and fear all over the country. In some parts of the Sudan, there has been a lot of violence and no law and order. In Khartoum and other places in Sudan, there is growing problem of lawlessness. This means more crimes like killing during robberies and people getting robbed. Number 9. The Central African Republic. The rule of law is almost non-existent. Lawlessness in the rest of the country has allowed armed groups to thrive, leading to increased fighting in the central, western, and eastern provinces. The conflict has wreaked havoc on the economy, crippling the private sector and leaving nearly 75% of the country's population in poverty. Crimes committed by both ex-Salika forces and anti-Balaka group amount to war crimes and crimes against the humanity. Due to the scale on the crisis, the UN Security Council established a peacekeeping force in April 2014 that had been deployed to CAR previously. Number 8. Somalia. The situation in Somalia is complex and the factors contributing to the lawlessness are numerous and interrelated. Additionally, the extremist group Al-Shabaab has conducted indiscriminate and targeted attacks on civilians and forcibly recruited children. The government and regional authorities have intimidated, attacked, arbitrarily arrested and at times prosecuted journalists. Freedom of expression is restricted and the journalists are attacked, beaten and arbitrarily arrested and prosecuted. Number 7. Iraq. The situation in Iraq is complex and the factors contributing to lawlessness are numerous and interrelated. Additionally, in 2003, invasion of Iraq by the United States and its co-partners led to a general lawless state in Iraq, which allowed some extremists to take root in the country and attack people of religious minorities, which they consider to be infidels. The situation in Iraq is dire, and it is important to note that the level of danger can vary depending on the region within the country and the specific circumstances of a traveler's visit. Number 6. Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to sources such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, the DRC has been experiencing serious human rights violations, including mass killings in the context of armed conflict and intercommunal violence, a crackdown on dissent, and ill treatment of detainees. People from regions affected by armed conflict, including eastern DRC, were particularly affected amidst mass displacement and deepening humanitarian crisis. The right to education was violated, the judicial infrastructure in the DRC is virtually broken, and there is little recourse for justice. Number 5. South Sudan. According to sources such as Council on Foreign Relations, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International, the country has been in state of civil war since 2013, with armed groups targeting civilians along ethnic lines, committing rape and sexual violence. Violence has prevented farmers from planting or harvesting crops, causing food shortage nationwide. The UN Security Council declared South Sudan's food crisis the worst in the world in July 2014, and famine was declared in South Sudan during the first few months of 2017, with nearly 5 million people at risk from food insecurity. The government has mismanaged resources, failed to clamp down on corruption, and has not delivered on promises to invest in education and fight hunger. Number 4. Russia. According to sources such as Vicegrad Insight, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal, the Russian legal system is flawed and often fails to protect the rights of citizens. Corruption is widespread, and the government often uses the legal system to suppress dissent and opposition. Additionally, the situation in occupied territories such as Crimea is even worse than Russia itself, with reports of human rights abuses and a lack of accountability for those responsible. The perception of lawlessness in Russia is not a new phenomenon, with some observers dating back to the Soviet era considering rural Russia to be lawless. Number 3. Syria. Syria has been gripped by a brutal civil war since 2011. This conflict involves numerous armed groups including governmental forces, rebels, and extremist organizations like ISIS. The ongoing fighting, including bombings and sieges, has led to widespread violence and chaos. The international dimension of the conflict, with various countries backing different factions, has further complicated efforts to bring peace to Syria. Number 2. Yemen. Yemen has been embroiled in a protracted and complex civil war since 2014. The conflict involves multiple parties including Houthi rebels, who took control of the capital Sana'a, and the internationally recognized government backed by a Saudi-led coalition. This ongoing conflict has led to frequent clashes, bombings, and military operations, making Yemen a highly dangerous place for civilians. Number 1. Afghanistan. Afghanistan is considered the most dangerous place in the world due to the high level of violence, terrorism, and the political instability, which have resulted in a high murder rate and a high global crime index score. The Taliban insurgency has led to frequent attacks on civilians, causing significant human suffering and displacement. It is important to note that the level of danger can vary depending on the region within the country and the specific circumstances of a traveler's visit. It is recommended to exercise caution and research the current situation before traveling to any of these countries.